Look at this plant. Isn't it beautiful? These beautiful purple flowers are blooming bright every morning. They'll close in the evening, and then the next morning there's a new set. And it's just beautiful. It's right in the middle of my sidewalk, but I just couldn't bear to dig it up. And I'm glad that I didn't, because it is just beautiful. And it's from the lettuces that you get, the mixed set of, mixed greens. And so I don't really know which type it is, but it is just beautiful. You never know what you're going to get when you let things go to seed. So we're doing fermented pickles today. Now, when my mother was a child, this is the way they got most of their pickles. In fact, you could go to the general store and they would have a big barrel and there would be a bunch of pickles in that. They were fermented pickles. Canning pickles wasn't that popular back then. Canning supplies as a whole was kind of scarce back then. And so fermenting was the way they did most of their stuff. And when you're fermenting pickles, and these are pickling that's a tongue twister, pickling pickles. So they're small for pickling. You cut off the blossom end when you're fermenting. So put in your dill. Now I put in 1.5 tablespoons of mustard seed. And even though I have fresh dill in there, I really like dill pickles, so I'm going to put in a teaspoon of dill seed. I'm putting in a teaspoon of peppercorns. And I'm going to put in 7 garlic cloves. Now these are from my fresh garlic that we just harvested. They've sat around for about 3 or 4 days to dry the skins a little bit so that I can get ready to put them up. And the recipe calls for a fourth of a onion. Now that depends on the size of your onion, how much that's going to be. So I just guesstimate, and I really put in about 1/4 of a cup. And I like the way it turns out. Then you just put your pickles in. The first layer, I really try to get upright and straight so that more will fit in. And you'll have a little space right there in the center. I get a smaller one and try to just wedge it in best I can. Trying to fill in that space down there. And maybe one more. Right here on top. Yeah, that'll be good. Now I'll get the brine. To make the brine, I put 2 tablespoons of sea salt. I use the pink Himalayan sea salt. Now you can also use kosher salt, but do not use table salt. And I pour in 4 cups of boiling water. And I stir to dissolve the salt. I said 2 tablespoons of sea salt, but I am making a large jar, so I use 3. Now, if you're using just the the regular quart mason jars, you can put 1 to 2 tablespoons of salt, depending on what you prefer. I use 3 tablespoons for these larger jars. And then you just let it cool. Now you want to be sure that you let your brine completely cool before adding it in. And you want your water to come an inch or so over your cucumbers. Now one thing that I add in, and the recipe, let me get that. I add in loose leaf green tea. Now the first time I saw that, it's in the recipe in Crowdsource, and the first time I saw it I thought, why would you do that? But it does something for the pickles, so I've added it ever since. Now what I use is the Crowdsource, and that's K-R-A-U-T, Crowdsource. I use their fermenting lid. You just use one of your regular ball lids to go over the top of your jar and to put the Crowdsource thing in place. You turn it, it will go down on your pickles, or cucumbers at this point. Hold it under the water. You want to be sure that it stays underwater. Now I will keep some salt water, which is your brine. I will keep that in the fridge just in case this goes a little low. One thing you want to do is you want to make sure in this little rim, if you're using the Crowdsource, you want to be sure in this little rim that it has water in it. You don't want that to go dry. And another thing in pickling or fermenting is you want to be sure that you're using good water. I would never use city water. I use filtered water. I don't drink city water. I have a Berkey. And then you just put this on top. Now, I have tried balls, fermenting things, and it's okay. I've tried several different types of fermenter utensils, and I like the Crowdsource better. For me, it works. No, I don't get paid. I'm not on their payroll. I'm just saying I like this fermenting utensil. It really works. It holds the stuff under. I don't have to put anything extra in. It keeps things under the water, and as long as you keep the water in this rim, and you have to check it every couple days. Another thing that I do is when I set this over on the far end of my counter, out of the sunlight, a place that stays kind of cool and dark, I will put a plate up under it, just in case, because this stuff is going to start fermenting and bubbling, and I don't want it going all out on my counter, so I put a plate or saucer up underneath it so that just in case it does overflow, it won't get on my counter and make a mess. Now, after 7 days, you're going to want to start checking this. Now, you're going to check it. If you have it in your kitchen, you can just walk by every day and look and see that the moat has still got water in it. If you're using another utensil, you don't have to do that. You just need to make sure that the water inside is still over your cucumbers. But on about the 7th day, you start testing to find out if they're at the place where you would like them to be. I let mine go for 14 days, 2 weeks. That's a good time for me. So that just judges on everybody. Same with your sauerkraut or whatever it is you use. So fermented pickles, it's a good thing. It's the original pickle. I hope that you make them yourself. And I'm going to go into the phone. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.